Hey, thank you for being with us today, Dr. Jerry.
My name's Harry. I'm 26 years old. I'm from Australia. I'm a carpenter in Japan, and I have been here for almost 2 years.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm 19 and I'm a first year student at the University of Tokyo. I lived my whole life in the UK before, near London. I'm studying social science at the moment. And yeah.
Difficulties in living in Japan is like socializing and getting good friends over here. I meet a lot of Japanese people, so we get along together, but with the time we take to get a little closer as friends, it's more longer, and people are always kind of have their schedules and they're really busy. One thing is like socializing with the Japanese people and getting good friends here. That's one difficulty which I found here. And another thing which I found is like the bureaucracy existing in the workplace. Everything follows a particular order. For me, in my field of work, it's research. It's all about thinking outside the box. If something's too eccentric, some idea is like way outside the box, it'll be like kind of oh, is it really worth doing
The
it?
first few months for me were really awesome because you're kind of in a state of like you're not really aware of what people's behavior really means. I mean, if you're coming from a Western country and you think people's pink, smiling and polite or whatever, it means that they're friendly and that they're good. After the first few months, and I start to become, you start to understand a bit of Japanese and you know what people are saying, and you kind of start to understand the culture a bit more and how people interact with each other. I had a pretty rough time. It was shocking. I've never really fully experienced being discriminated against simply for being from another place. I mean, at work and stuff, I went through hell with a lot of people just simply for just not being Japanese. That was pretty gnarly. And yeah, but I mean, the most important thing is you will go through it, and a lot of people I've spoken to have gone through it to some extent. You just got to find your little spot wherever it is you live in, get some mates, and once you've got some cool people around you, and you will meet some really great people, of course. So it's not all bad, but you will go through a stage where you feel victimized by Japanese society, is what I'm saying.
I know like small, like kind of trivial difficulties, like things like the cost of like fruits and vegetables and like excessive packaging on everything at the supermarket, no bins anywhere. Like there's like loads of like small things, which when you're just here for a bit on a holiday, it doesn't really matter. But then if you're living here, it gets a bit annoying, especially, like compared, like you really take it for granted how like cheap things are. It's like toiletries and stuff, just like small stuff that you need is super expensive compared to how much I'd normally pay for them. Yeah.
The positives would definitely be like safety and the convenience. So safety is like, I drop my wallet somewhere, like it just gets returned back to me. Yeah. So I just can't lose anything unless I'm really careless. I drop it into a river or something. But otherwise, safety is one of the best features in Japan. And even like as a woman, a woman can walk with a mini skirt in a bar district. You can't expect that in the US. You can't expect that to happen in India. You get catcalled and booed.
Yeah.
But Japan, that safety exists. And the convenience is like anything anywhere. We got public transport,
Right.
and like we have like convenience stores, like life is so safe and convenient here, man. That's a positives, definite
It's a
positives.
safe country. All people, I think, it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, as long as it's not poverty ridden and stuff, people when they've got money are usually pretty good. So I've met some amazing people. The food is just out of this world. It's the best in the world. Yeah, I just love it. It's great. I've got some amazing friends. I've learned a lot. I mean, I love Japan. I could live here the rest of my life,
So one of my favorite things about living here, especially like being quite young and female, like it's so safe. That's a massive difference for me. So safe, you can go out, you can, by yourself and you'll be fine. Also, general, the lifestyle is like, the good part is it's like easy, it's comfortable. People really prioritize that. I think just in general that you can live very comfortably here. People are very safe. It's very like polite. People are very nice. You don't have like, people aren't really rude in general. It's good, and especially if you're a tourist, that's probably why it's got so much appeal. But it also comes with obviously a lot of fakeness, which is like a massive like culture shock for me. Like, it's very different to, I think, most Western countries. People are very closed off and fake a lot of the time, and I think not open, or not really themselves, like in public anyway. And so if you're coming to Japan from a country like a Western country, it will be very isolating, especially if you don't know people there. Just like the cultural, how people act, they've been taught to just put on a nice face and be nice to people, even if that's not actually how they feel. It's not a very open place, I'd say, but it's like you can live very easily. Yeah, that's what I think.
I feel like people, they have a saying, ruru wa ruru, right? It's just the rules are the rules and that's what you do. And like, everybody can see that there's some rules that are just like, I'll be on time when I have a meeting, but if I don't have to go, why am I still here? Like I noticed at work, sometimes we'll be finished what we're doing and we'll sit around for hours doing nothing. Like, there's those sort of things where culturally it's looked at as lazy or whatever to leave work early and all this stuff, where when you're there and you could go be being with your wife, or you could go be having a good time doing something else that you need to do. Yeah, there's some really rigid cultural things that is ultimately like, I just think it's pointless, right? If it's pointless if you're trying to do the right thing, right? So I understand why people do it as well, but certain things like that, I think people could just be a little bit more like, yeah, take it easy. Why are you trying to do it like that in the first place? What are you trying to create? And if it's to create a better life and to enjoy yourself, one of the parts of that is being able to go home if you can, right? And you should go home or take care of yourself and don't work yourself into getting sick and stuff for no reason. What's the point?
Both grizzly and black bear mothers living near the lake have an easier time.
Possibly the more true social interaction. Once we meet a Japanese person, the first time we meet, it's like always like happy looking, but we just don't know what they truly feel. People like me, I'm just true. Like I expose myself to everybody, and you like me, you can be friends with me. Don't like, just go. But the Japanese people, the first time meeting, we never know what happens. We might think like, hey, this was a nice guy, so we might be friends. But the next day, it's like, who are you?
I think it would be perfect if people would just look at what needs to be done and then do it, and then just go take it easy somewhere. You're more efficient if you go to bed and you sleep for 8 hours than if you sleep for 4 and you're at work for 20 hours. You're just sitting there, so being useless because you're too exhausted and you think you're doing something and you're just making yourself more and more unhealthy. Like the idea that the fact that you're at work for a long time, it means you did a good job, when it's simply just not true. My job, right, we have 2 hours of break a day. I don't need 2 hours of break. I can go hard for 8 hours, have half an hour off, go hard, and then I go home because I've got other things to do. Japan's amazing, I love it, and I'm not saying anything against it, right? But Australia has cities, you don't have to be at work for 70 hours a week to do it. I mean, some, corporate lawyers, crazy stuff, but I just I'm a carpenter. We build houses in Australia too, and you build them in the same amount of time, and we're not at work for 60 hours a week. It's because a task is chosen, and then you execute the task, and then you leave, and you rest. And here it feels like the way that you're a man or whatever, or you went hard, is you were just there for a long time. You didn't really do that much. Because no one can work for 12 hours straight.
I think like the contact thing is a big thing. Like, I didn't think it would be for me. I'm not a very touchy-feely person anyway. And then coming here and literally, people don't touch. It's like bowing, no hugging, even if it's like a friend or like someone you know quite well, or like even, I don't know, hugging and stuff like that. Like, none of that. I feel like that's super, has a bigger effect than you realize. So maybe that is one thing. Also, there's very strict hierarchies in Japan. You can kind of predict what someone's going to say based on what your relationship to them is, without knowing the person. For example, you can predict exactly what they'll say, how they act, that kind of thing. Just because, is really strong, like who's above who, even on like a small scale. I was talking just about like the term brother and sister, and how in Japanese, like you don't have the broad term brother or sister. It's like older or younger, right? And there's like specific ways you should talk if you're an older one or a younger one, things like that. Like even from when we're like kids, it's like this hierarchical structure, like probably breaking that down a bit, so it's like less what you say is less based on that and just more what you want to say based like on the person. Like you can still be respectful, but just people saying more what they want to say rather than what they have to say based on like their position, you know.
We see the YouTube tutorials and they say like, hey, you should try to, Japanese don't like a beard, they have some ethics, try to convert yourself and fit in there. But I suggest not to do those things. Okay, just be yourself. It's like if we try to like kind of please the others, not being ourselves, kind of in the longer run it bites you back. So try to fit in, obey the rules and follow the basic etiquette of the general people, but be yourself.
You just, this is collectivism basically, but you gotta, it's great because you can use it as an opportunity to like get rid of your ego a bit, but you gotta just do as the other people do. Our culture is more like, if you go against the grain, it's somewhat like respected, you know what I mean? Not everyone does it and whatever, and you know, everyone does it. Even here people want to do it. You got that natural thing to kind of want to rebel or be innovative and stuff, and here it's the opposite. So like if you have an idea that people, the values are different, it's valued of like group order and there's things like that. So when you think of something cool that could change everything and be great, people might not perceive it as such. So you need to really blend in, just go with the flow of what people expect from you until you find yourself in a position to do. Otherwise, don't go against the grain because you'll get your head cut off immediately. I've had it happen multiple times here. Yeah, don't be seen as a person who goes against the grain. Get yourself into a position where you're able to, and then do it before anyone. If anyone has a chance to chop you down, they will.
I think firstly, just like make sure you're aware of what you're going into. Like, I think people have very like idyllic image of Japan, like isolating side of Japan you're not gonna find like through what you see about Japan online. And if you're coming to Japan, just like find people, like find community through something. Like if you know people here, make sure you are connected with them. Otherwise, you will definitely feel like the isolation and the kind of feeling, kind of apart. Like you'll really notice that, and it will probably get to you more than you realize. And if you don't know people here, try and find people maybe before you come or when you go there, like somehow try and find community. Otherwise, you'll probably struggle, is what I'd say.